Hello everyone. If you are aiming to become a Databricks certified data engineer associate, you are in the right place. I have gone through the newly updated official syllabus, summarized the key topics in detail, and compiled a comprehensive study guide to help you approach this exam. Please note that this content represents my own efforts and is not affiliated with my employer. Generally, I create my own notes. I thought, why not share my notes here as well, right? So let's get started on the journey to help you become certified.
Databricks Certified Data Engineer Associate Section 1, Databricks Lakehouse Platform 1. Describe the relationship between the data lakehouse and the data warehouse. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Understand the limitations of traditional data warehouses. For example, expensive storage, rigid schema, limited handling of unstructured semi-structured data. Recognize how a data lake supports raw, unstructured data at scale but lacks robust ACID transactions and governance features. Broken vertical bar. Study how the lakehouse combines the best of both worlds. Low-cost storage in data lakes plus data warehouse-like performance and governance. Broken vertical bar. Recommended resource. Databricks documentation. What is the lakehouse? 2. Identify the improvement in data quality in the data lakehouse over the data lake. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Explore how Delta Lake builds upon a raw data lake to support ACID transactions, schema enforcement, and time travel. Broken vertical bar. Understand the role of Delta Lake in guaranteeing data consistency and quality. Broken vertical bar. Learn about data versioning and schema evolution, which are crucial for maintaining quality. Broken vertical bar. Recommended resource. Delta Lake on Databricks 3. Compare and contrast silver and gold tables. Which workloads will use a bronze table as a source? Which workloads will use a gold table as a source? Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Bronze tables, raw data ingestion, typically minimal transformations. Broken vertical bar. Silver tables, data that has been cleaned, deduplicated, or conformed, used for intermediate analytics. Broken vertical bar. Gold tables, highly refined, aggregated, or analytics-ready data for advanced BI/ML workloads. Broken vertical bar. Read about multi-hop architecture, bronze right arrow, silver right arrow, gold. Broken vertical bar. Understand the typical workloads for each layer and how they feed into each other. 4. Identify elements of the Databricks platform architecture, such as what is located in the data plane versus the control plane and what resides in the customer's cloud account. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. The control plane is managed by Databricks Web AI, REST API, job scheduling, notebooks. Broken vertical bar. The data plane runs in your cloud account, clusters running workloads on your data. Broken vertical bar. Familiarize yourself with how security and governance differ between the control plane and data plane. Broken vertical bar. Recommended resource. Databricks Architecture Overview 5. Differentiate between all-purpose clusters and jobs clusters. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. All-purpose clusters are interactive, used for development, data exploration, and ad hoc queries. Broken vertical bar. Jobs clusters are dedicated to automated tasks, typically ephemeral. Spin up for a job, terminate after. Broken vertical bar. Understand cost and usage optimizations for each type. 6. Identify how cluster software is versioned using the Databricks runtime. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Each Databricks cluster runs a specific Databricks runtime version, for example, 11.3 LTS, 12.2 LTS. Broken vertical bar. The runtime includes Spark, Scala, Python, and libraries. Broken vertical bar. Knowing how to choose a runtime version that's stable and compatible with your libraries is essential. 7. Identify how clusters can be filtered to view those that are accessible by the user. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. In the Databricks AI, you can filter clusters, for example, by owner, running versus terminated status. Broken vertical bar. Explore permissions that control cluster visibility. 8. Describe how clusters are terminated and the impact of terminating a cluster. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Auto termination settings help reduce costs by shutting down inactive clusters. Broken vertical bar. Terminating a cluster stops any running jobs and releases the compute resources. Broken vertical bar. Investigate how ephemeral storage or local variables in memory are lost upon termination. 9. Identify a scenario in which restarting the cluster will be useful. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar when libraries or configurations need to be reloaded. Broken vertical bar when the cluster has become unresponsive or in an unexpected state. Broken vertical bar after modifying cluster level init scripts or changing environment settings. 10. Describe how to use multiple languages within the same notebook. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar Databricks notebooks allow use of %Python, %SQL, %Scala, %R within a single notebook. Broken vertical bar understands cell-level language magic commands and the limitations of data sharing across cells. 11. Identify how to run one notebook from within another notebook. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar use %run command or notebook workflows to call a notebook from another. Broken vertical bar passing parameters between notebooks in a workflow job. 12. Identify how notebooks can be shared with others. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar explore permission levels. Read, run, edit, owner. Broken vertical bar understand folder level permissions and how to share a notebook link or import-export notebooks. 13. Describe how Databricks repos enables CI/CD workflows in Databricks. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar repos provide a Git-backed interface, GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Azure DevOps. Broken vertical bar each repo is a local clone of a remote repository in Databricks. Broken vertical bar integration with CI/CD pipelines for automated testing and deployment. 14. Identify Git operations available via Databricks repos. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar create, clone, commit, pull, push, merge, create branches, etc. Broken vertical bar limitations compared to a full-fledged local Git client. 15. Identify limitations in Databricks Notebook's version control functionality relative to repos. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar notebook revision history is not a full Git-based version control system. Broken vertical bar repos allow for branching, merging, code reviews. Notebook's built-in revision history does not. Section 2. ELT with Apache Spark 1. Extract data from a single file and from a directory of files. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar familiarize with Spark.read methods for CSV, SYN, Parquet, etc. Broken vertical bar understand how Spark can infer schemas and read multiple files from a directory with wildcard patterns. 2. Identify the prefix included after the from keyword as the data type. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar example from CSV versus from Delta in SQL syntax. Broken vertical bar Databricks SQL supports specifying the format. For example, select asterisk from Delta, or select asterisk from Parquet. 3. Create a view, a temporary view, and a CTE as a reference to a file. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar syntax. Broken vertical bar temporary view. Create or replace temp view. Broken vertical bar persistent view. Create view requires a database schema. Broken vertical bar CTE with less than CTE underscore name greater than as select. Broken vertical bar scope differences. Session versus persistent in a metastore. 4. Identify that tables from external sources are not Delta Lake tables. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar distinguish between external, Parquet, CSV, or just referencing an external file and Delta Lake tables with ACID capabilities. 5. Create a table from a JDBC connection and from an external CSV file. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar use Spark's JDBC API, spark.read.format, JDBC, and write.format, JDBC. For relational DB data. Broken vertical bar use create table using CSV or Spark data frame write for CSV ingestion. 6. Identify how the count underscore if function and the count where x is null can be used. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar count underscore if condition counts rows that match a Boolean condition. Broken vertical bar count column does not count nulls, while count asterisk does. Broken vertical bar checking data quality or the number of missing values. 7. Identify how the count row skips null values. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar by default. Count columnum ignores no. Broken vertical bar contrast with count asterisk, which counts all rows. 8. To duplicate rows from an existing Delta Lake table. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar use Spark data frame drop duplicates or SQL distinct. Broken vertical bar address scenarios to remove duplicates based on all columns versus subset of columns. 9. Create a new table from an existing table while removing duplicate rows. Key reading points. Syntax example. Create table new underscore table as select distinct asterisk from existing underscore table broken vertical bar or via Spark data frame a piece. 10. To duplicate a row based on specific columns. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar example. Drop duplicates. :1, :2. Broken vertical bar strategies to keep the latest row when duplicates exist. 11. Validate that the primary key is unique across all rows. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar checking count asterisk versus count distinct primary key. Broken vertical bar using constraints in Delta or manual checks via group by. 12. Validate that a field is associated with just one unique value in another field. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar running group by checks or using window functions to ensure one-to-one relationships. 13. Validate that a value is not present in a specific field. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar use not in or anti-joins in SQL. Broken vertical bar implement data quality checks with Spark transformations. 14. Cast a column to a timestamp. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar use Spark SQL cast column as timestamp or data frame. Cast timestamp. 15. Extract calendar data from a timestamp. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar date time functions. Year, month, day of month, hour, etc. 16. Extract a specific pattern from an existing string column. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar regex functions. Regex underscore extract. Regex underscore replace. Broken vertical bar string manipulation. Split, substring, etc. 17. Utilize the dot syntax to extract nested data fields. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar for struct fields. Reference df.canum.subfield. Broken vertical bar Spark SQL syntax. Canum.subfield or canum subfield. 18. Identify the benefits of using array functions. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar Spark SQL array functions. Explode. Array underscore contains. Size. Transform. Broken vertical bar easy processing of repeated or nested data. 19. Parse send strings into structs. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar used from underscore send column schema. Broken vertical bar understand how to define a schema for complex send. 20. Identify which result will be returned based on a join query. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar types of joins. Inner, left, right, full, cross. Broken vertical bar data duplication or row filtering that occurs with each join type. 21. Identify a scenario to use the explode function versus the flatten function. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar explode creates multiple rows from each array element. Broken vertical bar flatten merges multiple arrays into one. 22. Identify the pivot clause as a way to convert data from a long format to a wide format. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar SQL syntax. Select. From table pivot. Broken vertical bar understand grouping, pivot column, and how to fill pivoted values. 23. Define a SQL of. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar syntax. Create function less than name greater than as. Broken vertical bar importance of specifying input-output data types. 24. Identify the location of a function. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar functions can live in catalogs databases, UC catalogs or Hive metastore. Broken vertical bar qualified name example, catalog.schema.functionum. 25. Describe the security model for sharing SQL UDFs. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar permissions around UDF usage in Unity catalog. Broken vertical bar ownership and usage rights for shared UDFs. 26. Use case/when in SQL code. Key reading points. Syntax for conditional logic. Case. When less than condition greater than then less than value greater than else less than value greater than end. Broken vertical bar nested case statements or multiple conditions. 27. Leverage case/when for custom control flow. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar building more complex transformations using multiple when conditions. Broken vertical bar using case for data cleaning or bucketing. Section 3. Incremental data processing 1. Identify where Delta Lake provides ACID transactions. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar Delta Lake adds ACID transactions on top of data lake files. Broken vertical bar transactional logs track data changes at the file level. 2. Identify the benefits of ACID transactions. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar data consistency, no partial writes, concurrency control, rollback capabilities. Broken vertical bar reliability for streaming and batch workloads. 3. Identify whether a transaction is ACID compliant. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar for transactions on a delta table. Check the _delta_log for consistent updates. Broken vertical bar ACID compliance typically means atomicity, consistency, isolation, durability. 4. Compare and contrast data and metadata. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar data, the actual records in your tables files. Broken vertical bar metadata, schemas, partitions, transaction logs, table definitions. 5. Compare and contrast managed and external tables. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar managed table. Databricks Delta Lake manages data location, lifecycle. Broken vertical bar external table. Data resides outside default locations, often in user-managed storage. 6. Identify a scenario to use an external table. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar when data is shared across different systems or kept in a specific location for compliance. Broken vertical bar when you need to preserve your data files even if the table is dropped. 7. Create a managed table. Key reading points. Syntax. Create table _name. Using delta as select. Broken vertical bar typically stores files in the default DBFS location or a Unity Catalog managed location. 8. Identify the location of a table. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar for Unity Catalog. Tables are stored in cloud storage with a unique path. Broken vertical bar for Hive Metahistory legacy approach. Tables reside in the DBFS default location. 9. Inspect the directory structure of Delta Lake files. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar _delta_log/folder contains sin/checkpoint files. Broken vertical bar data files are typically partitioned in directories. 10. Identify who has written previous versions of a table. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar use describe history less than table _name greater than. Broken vertical bar shows user, operation type, and timestamps. 11. Review a history of table transactions. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar describe history displays commit version, operation, user, etc. Broken vertical bar good for auditing changes. 12. Roll back a table to a previous version. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar restore table less than table _name greater than to version as of less than version _number greater than. 13. Identify that a table can be rolled back to a previous version. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar same concept as time travel, which uses versioning. 14. Query a specific version of a table. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar select asterisk from less than table _name greater than version as of less than version _number greater than. 15. Identify why ordering is beneficial to Delta Lake tables. Key reading points. Broken vertical bars order collocates related information in the same files for faster queries. Broken vertical bar reduces data skipping overhead. 16. Identify how vacuum commits deletes. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar vacuum removes old files no longer referenced by the delta log. Broken vertical bar important for reclaiming storage and fully removing outdated data. 17. Identify the kind of files. Optimize compacts. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Optimize merges many small files into larger files, improving query performance. 18. Identify TIS as a solution. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar TIS. Create table as select. Broken vertical bar used to create new tables from existing queries transformations. 19. Create a generated column. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar syntax example with generated always as expression. Broken vertical bar useful for storing derived values. 20. Add a table comment. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar comment on table underscore name as this is a description. Broken vertical bar helps with metadata clarity. 21. Use create or replace table and insert overwrite. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar create or replace table recreates the table definition and data. Broken vertical bar insert overwrite rewrites data in a table or partition. 22. Compare and contrast create or replace table and insert overwrite. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar create or replace table can change schema and reinitialize the table. Broken vertical bar insert override only replaces data but retains schema. 23. Identify a scenario in which merge should be used. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar when you need upserts, update existing rows, insert new rows or deletions, handling incremental data loads and deduplication. 24. Identify merge as a command to deduplicate data upon writing. Key reading points. Example, merge into target as T using source as S on T.id equals S.id when matched then update. When not matched then insert. Broken vertical bar consolidates insert update in one atomic operation. 25. Describe the benefits of the merge command. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar atomic concurrency safe upserts. Broken vertical bar less code compared to multiple insert update statements. 26. Identify why a copy into statement is not duplicating data in the target table. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar copy into is often used for loading new data from a source location. Broken vertical bar if the underlying files are the same. Delta Lake prevents duplicates by referencing the same data. 27. Identify a scenario in which copy into should be used. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar efficient for loading large amounts of new files in a directory-based pipeline. Broken vertical bar automated ingestion from external sources, Azure Blob, AWS S3, etc. 28. Use copy into to insert data. Key reading points. Syntax. Copy into table underscore name from path underscore to underscore files file format equals CSV. Broken vertical bar options for schema inference. Partitioning. 29. Identify the components necessary to create a new DLT pipeline. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar DLT Delta Live tables requires a source, a notebook with pipeline definitions, a target for output tables, and permissions for compute. 30. Identify the purpose of the target and of the notebook libraries in creating a pipeline. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar target, the location catalog where the resulting tables will live. Broken vertical bar notebook libraries, the logic of transformations and table definitions. 31. Compare and contrast triggered and continuous pipelines in terms of cost and latency. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar triggered runs on a schedule or once, cheaper but higher latency. Broken vertical bar continuous runs continuously, low latency but can be more expensive. 32. Identify which source location is utilizing autoloader. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar autoloader is used with cloud underscore files or files syntax in DLT. Broken vertical bar looks for increasing sequence of files in a directory. 33. Identify a scenario in which autoloader is beneficial. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar when data arrives incrementally in cloud storage. Broken vertical bar you want to process new files as they land without manual triggers. 34. Identify why autoloader has inferred all data to be string from a SYN source. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar autoloader often defaults to string if schema inference is ambiguous or if nested structures are complex. Broken vertical bar. You can define a schema hint or use schema evolution to refine. 35. Identify the default behavior of a constraint violation. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. By default, the row is dropped or the transaction fails, depending on configuration. Broken vertical bar. Explore enforce underscore constraints versus ignoring errors. 36. Identify the impact of on violation drop row and on violation fail update for a constraint violation. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. On violation drop row, the pipeline discards any rows that break constraints. Broken vertical bar. On violation fail update, the pipeline stops if a constraint is broken. 37. Explain change data capture and the behavior of apply changes into. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. DLTs apply changes automate CDC patterns, upserts deletes. Broken vertical bar. Understand how keys, sequence underscore by, and apply underscore is underscore deletes work. 38. Query the events log to get metrics, perform audit logging, examine lineage. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. DLT automatically logs all pipeline events, for example, update progress, version, errors. Broken vertical bar. The event log can be queried like a table to observe data lineage. 39. Troubleshoot DLT syntax. Identify which notebook in a DLT pipeline produced an error. Identify the need for live and create statement. Identify the need for stream and from clause. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Live keyword for referencing DLT managed tables views. Broken vertical bar. Stream for reading streaming data sources within DLT. Broken vertical bar. Pipeline error logs in the DLT AE. Section 4. Production pipelines. 1. Identify the benefits of using multiple tasks in jobs. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Modularization, parallel execution, dependent scheduling, better error isolation. Broken vertical bar. Clear separation of different workflow stages, for example, data prep, data transform, ML. 2. Set up a predecessor task in jobs. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Use the Databricks jobs AE to define task dependencies. Broken vertical bar. A predecessor must complete successfully before the dependent task starts. 3. Identify a scenario in which a predecessor task should be set up. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. When downstream tasks rely on the output or success of an upstream task, for example, data cleanup before training. 4. Review a task's execution history. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Access the jobs AE or the REST API to see logs, start and times, success failure status. 5. Identify cron as a scheduling opportunity. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Jobs can be triggered on a schedule using standard cron notation. Understand typical cron expressions. For example, 00 asterisk 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 for midnight daily. 6. Debug a failed task. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Logs, cluster driver logs, error messages in the jobs AE. Broken vertical bar. Common Spark Databricks errors. Out of memory, missing libraries, permission issues. 7. Set up a retry policy in case of failure. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Configure the number of retries, backoff intervals in the jobs settings. 8. Create an alert in the case of a failed task. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Leverage Databricks alerts or notifications, email, Slack, etc. Broken vertical bar. Integrate with third-party alerting systems via webhooks. 9. Identify that an alert can be sent via email. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. This is one of the default notification methods provided by Databricks. Section 5. Data Governance. 1. Identify one of the 4 areas of data governance. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. Common governance pillars: data discovery and cataloging, data masking, access control, audit and lineage. Broken vertical bar. Learn how Unity Catalog addresses these areas. 2. Compare and contrast meta-stores and catalogs. Key reading points. Broken vertical bar. A meta-store is a top-level container for data objects in Databricks. Broken vertical bar catalog is a grouping of databases schemas within a metastore. Broken vertical bar Unity catalog introduces a new model where one metastore can contain multiple catalogs. 3. Identify Unity catalog securables. Key reading points, broken vertical bar securables, catalogs, schemas, tables, views, functions, and external locations. Broken vertical bar permissions can be granted at each securable level. 4. Define a service principal. Key reading points, broken vertical bar a headless identity for automated services or applications to authenticate and access data. Broken vertical bar used instead of a user's personal credentials. 5. Identify the cluster security modes compatible with Unity Catalog. Key reading points, broken vertical bar single user isolation versus shared versus no isolation modes. Broken vertical bar Unity Catalog requires either single user or shared mode for governance. 6. Create a UC-enabled all-purpose cluster. Key reading points, broken vertical bar in the IE. Select access mode equals single user or shared. Attach the cluster to a UC metastore. 7. Create a DB-SQL warehouse. Key reading points, broken vertical bar steps to provision a SQL warehouse in Databricks SQL. Broken vertical bar important for running SQL analytics at scale. 8. Identify how to query a three-layer namespace. Key reading points, broken vertical bar Unity catalog uses catalog.schema.table. Broken vertical bar example, select asterisk from main.default.my_table. 9. Implement data object access control. Key reading points, grant statements. Grant select on table my_table to user some_user broken vertical bar role-based or user-based privileges in Unity Catalog. 10. Identify co-locating metastores with a workspace as best practice. Key reading points, broken vertical bar each workspace can be attached to one UC metastore. Broken vertical bar keep data governance boundaries simpler by co-locating them. 11. Identify using service principals for connections as best practice. Key reading points, broken vertical bar minimizes reliance on personal access tokens. Broken vertical bar automates data access for production pipelines. 12. Identify the segregation of business units across catalog as best practice. Key reading points, broken vertical bar each business unit could have its own catalog to clearly separate data access privileges. Broken vertical bar simplifies permission granting and ensures data compliance. Final tips and next steps. 1. Hands-on practice. Spin up a Databricks workspace, Community Edition, or your organization's environment. Practice creating tables, managed versus external, running queries, building DLT pipelines, and configuring jobs. 2. Explore official documentation and resources. Databricks documentation, Delta Lake documentation, Unity catalog documentation. 3. Sample questions and labs. Work through any sample questions, Databricks Academy courses, or labs that simulate real-world data engineering tasks. 4. Review exam guide. The official Databricks exam guide often has domain-weighted sections and example questions to test your knowledge.
Share it, and don't hesitate to let me know if you would like to see more content like this for other certifications. I have no plans for monetizing this channel, even in the future. I do it simply to help others, but hearing your feedback genuinely motivates me to keep going. Good luck on your journey to become a certified professional. Thank you.